Greetings, English 101 students. Happy Monday to you. This is our 5th teacher chat, and in this teacher chat, I'm going to do a couple things. First, I'm going to give you some reminders about inquiry number 1, which is due by the end of today, Monday, September 14th, and I'm going to introduce inquiry number 2. I also want to mention that my office hours have changed for this week only. Instead of them being from 12 to 2, they will be from 11 to noon. Again, they'll be from 11 to noon this Wednesday. And even though you will have just finished inquiry number 1, I really encourage you to pop in if you can and debrief with me and Andrew, or just chat with me about how you're feeling about the class. I really do think even 5 minutes of your time with me is really useful and helpful. Okay, so if this is Monday, most of you are still putting the final touches on your inquiry 1 rough drafts. I really loved reading all your rough drafts and looking at the way you guys are thinking about and remembering your body in all of these certain ways. So just remember, make sure the body is present, make sure to reflect as best you can at the end, and don't forget about the writer's letter. Look back at inquiry number 1 assignment sheet for all the details. Those will be due by 11:59 today on Monday. Moving on, this week we are going to start inquiry number 2. And that's what you can see here on the screen. Is in Module 5 is the introduction to inquiry number 2. I'll go through the different assignments as best we can. So, as always, we have the 5.2 or the student lounge where you guys are social and get to talk about different things. I'm trying to change the subject again this week to some more current event ideas. And then we will have the inquiry number 2 assignment sheet. I will go back and change this. It is wrong. I put in inquiry 3, but it's supposed to be inquiry number 2. And let's look at that assignment sheet together. So, inquiry number 2's title is Interpreting Bodies. At the top of the assignment sheet, you will see lots of different due dates. This is because we are still doing process writing, which means that we have small tasks that lead up to the final one, to the final project or assignment. Notice that this inquiry is going to take us 4 weeks. So I give you the due dates at the top, even though you guys only see one module at a time, so that you can start to plan ahead. This week, and as we go on with the class, you'll see that the homework and potentially the quality of the work that I'm asking you to do is going to start to ramp up. We're going to move from reflecting on our own experience to making arguments in a public way. And so just be aware of that as we kind of get going in this second inquiry. Beyond the due dates and the grade breakdown, I just want to kind of explain what your task is. Inquiry number 2 is where you guys are going to write an analysis of a commercial that includes a body or many bodies. It's going to be a 3-page essay where you put forth a thesis and explain it using interpretation techniques. Your analysis will engage these inquiry questions. So these are the guiding questions for the whole assignment. How do we respond to images of bodies? How do they persuade the viewer to believe or do something? And what meanings do we give bodies? And I mean this in kind of like a social way. We start to reflect not only what you think of your body and how you've constructed it at times, but now we're going to start to ask outward. How is our society asking us to understand and give meaning to bodies? In order to write this essay, you're going to look at how to analyze a commercial, which we also call a visual text, by practicing certain interpretation techniques: summary response, close reading, analysis, interpretation, and synthesis. These are a lot of words that you've probably heard before. They mean similar things, but we're going to make sure and kind of slow down our interpretation process so that you're aware of how each step works. We are going to find that these skills are supported by the Abrams text, the EMPA word, that we've been using in class. He has chapters 4, 5, and 6 dedicated to this, but I don't quite use his chapters in order. We will do chapter 5 this week, next week chapter 4, and the week after chapter 6, just because I think they happen in that order. So we are going to use that. I'm going to jump really fast over to the Abrams text so that we all look at it together. I had some confusion this week about page numbers and where they fall. So you'll notice at the top of the screen here, where my cursor is, it says page 1 out of 547. That's the PDF page. So the PDF document is 547 pages total. but you'll notice that there's a little line here, a little box, and that little area is blank, and that's because we're not on page 1 of the document yet. So you'll notice that, let's say in the assignment for this week, I'm going to ask you to read an essay called Education Methods by a student, as a sample student essay, and it's on page 140. I can put my cursor here, type in 140, hit return, and it's going to take me to page 140 of the textbook, not 140 of the document. And so to look back up here, you notice that in parentheses it says 192 of 547. This is page number 192 of the document, but also page 140 of the textbook. So I try to give both numbers because it became confusing last week, but just be sure to look carefully at the page numbers that I give you as well as the title. So here, page 140 says Education Methods, Banking versus Problem Posing. This is what you're going to read in part from this chapter this week. Some of you read other essays, but those essays' titles didn't match what I had given in the assignment. So you just want to make sure and look closely at everything so that you're reading the correct stuff for your quizzes and your discussion posts and for your overall understanding of the class. Okay, so to jump back to the assignment sheet, I'm not going to read each of these steps to you in detail right now, but I'm just going to draw your attention to the fact that there are steps to this. So step 1, choosing your text and writing a mini proposal. That's what you're going to do in Module 5, or essentially week 5 of the class. The week after, you're going to summarize, respond, and close read with a heuristic. I will give you a heuristic that you will be working on that week, and you'll turn it in at the end of the week. Not unlike what you did last time. This will be Module 6, or again, week 6. And then weeks 7 and 8, you're going to write the essay. And not unlike what you did for Inquiry 1, you're going to have a drafting stage, time for feedback, and to revise and edit, and then to turn it in. Step 4, we'll be doing a writer's letter. I will ask you to do a writer's letter again to reflect on Inquiry 2 in the whole and how your process went. Down here, you're going to see the purpose of Inquiry number 2, and it has many goals. First, you're practicing a methodical and very slow way of breaking down a text, responding to it, and coming up with an interpretation clearly and deliberately. I slow you down on purpose. It may not always feel good. You might think, well, I already know how to summarize. I've been summarizing since 3rd grade. But I'm really wanting to make sure that we know how to separate out what others are saying, what your reaction is, and how that reaction turns into interpretation. Because in Inquiry 3, when we start to do research, you're going to need to distinguish those very quickly so that you can then absorb that information and use it for your own argument. So that's the first one. Second, you're increasing your attention to visual literacy by looking at a video commercial. I'm interested in how you see both images and words like alphabetic text working to kind of give you an understanding of a body in this commercial. And so in doing so, we're prepping ourselves for reading a graphic text in Inquiry number 3 or before Inquiry number 3. So that we're now aware and looking at how are images influencing our interpretation of a text. And lastly, you're furthering your understanding of how bodies make meaning in public texts. We're still pulling on that theme of bodies. Hopefully you're not sick of it by now. But you're pulling on it and you're saying, what's the shift from how I understood my body, that was Inquiry number 1, to how society understands bodies and advertises or makes arguments about it. And then in Inquiry number 3, you're going to make arguments about bodies in a similar way. So this is all creating layers and building up to larger projects. And I want you to make sure that you see that purpose there. I'm not just randomly assigning assignments so that you can just do busy work. So this is our new Inquiry number 2 assignment sheet. Please read it in detail. I do expect you to know it, and if you write me with questions, I'm happy to answer them, but I also might point you back to the text if I think you need to close read those a little further. Going back to our Canvas page in Module 5, you'll see again that you need to read number 2, Inquiry number 2's assignment sheet. I will change that. You will need to read select pages out of the EMPO Word PDF. I also have uploaded a short article from Teen Vogue in 2017 titled "We Need to Talk About Digital Blackface." Please read that, and there's a video to kind of further your understanding of historical blackface if you want to watch it. And then, of course, you will have a quiz and discussion post and the mini proposal. The mini proposal is a one-page, double-spaced, more or less. I'm not super picky about exactly how long it is. A short essay answering the following questions about the commercial you have chosen. So by the end of the week, by next Sunday, you will need to have chosen a commercial to analyze for inquiry number 2. The mini proposal is going to tell me what you've chosen, where you found it, summarizing it, reflecting on it, and just kind of telling me, hey, this is why I think this is a good commercial to use in this assignment. And that way I can start to give you feedback early on, and this way it helps us from getting into too many conundrums if you're picking a commercial that's not on topic, or maybe doesn't lend you enough to talk about, or maybe it's just like so overboard that you want to talk about it with me, and we can do that as well. So those are the assignments for this week. I look forward to getting your inquiry number 1 final draft of the essay and writer's letter, but I'm also looking forward to starting inquiry number 2 with you. There's a lot of new information, so make sure you take some time to look at all of the different readings, and let me know if you have any questions. Thank you all. Have a great week.